If you are someone who struggles with a predominantly negative mindset, or you feel like the past is still holding you back and keeping you stuck in these old patterns, these old cycles, and these negative feedback loops, this video is going to help you so much. I'm diving into one of the most powerful techniques that I have learned over the last few years doing this mindset reprogramming work, diving deep into the subconscious and how it works, how it affects us every single moment of every single day in every single area of our life, okay? I'm talking about relationships, career, finances, lifestyle, personal self-love, all these kinds of things. Every single aspect of your life and the belief system and the belief patterns that you have is impacted by self-image psychology. So make sure you stick around until the very end, because by the end of this video, it is my goal that you will have a very clear understanding of why this is so important and exactly how to do it so that you can shift your negative stories and your negative self-image into something that's going to allow you to not only feel better every day, but align with your best self, which is also going to allow you to start to manifest and attract, because who you are is what, and how you show up is what you attract to you. You only attract on the energy and the vibration of what you are showing up as. So we need to get you to start to show up as your best self, your future self, your ideal self, and then all of a sudden the manifestation is going to just flow right into you. So stick around, let's dive in, let's get going on this, and let's change your self-image. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Kara Michelle and I'm here to help you live your truth. Now this means shedding all those old stories, all the limiting beliefs, all the things that are keeping you stuck. This is the most important thing in every area of your life, as I mentioned, because whatever you believe is a limit for yourself, it will become a limit. It will keep you stuck there. If we can shift out of it, and if you can create a new empowered belief in there and fully embody it and take it on and believe it to be true, then that becomes your reality. So Dr. Maxwell Maltz, he was a really well-known plastic surgeon, and he also has this amazing book. So one of them is called Mastering the Power of Self-Image Psychology. The other one is called Psycho-Cybernetics. These are both really good books, really powerful for understanding how the subconscious mind works. Now, the one part I really want to dive into on this video specifically is all about understanding what you believe about yourself is how you're going to show up energetically every single day. So we need to change that belief in order to see it reflected in the external reality. Now, the reason he wrote these books all about mindset, you'd think like he's a plastic surgeon. What's this about? He really noticed that there were people who could come in and get, like, say they're getting like plastic surgery on their face to look a different way, and they would leave the surgery looking totally different, but because of their beliefs and the deeply rooted subconscious mind, they still saw themselves exactly how they were before the surgery. So they still had all the insecurities, they still had all the limiting beliefs and doubts, and even though they had created this external fix, or maybe not a fix, but like an external adjustment, the internal adjustment hadn't been done, and so they didn't see themselves any differently. And I feel like, praise the Lord, this is the perfect example of why the inner work is so important and why I just like preach it all the time and why it's become my life, because I also know what it's like to have a ton of insecurities. I used to hate myself when I looked in the mirror and I couldn't think of a single thing that I liked about myself or my appearance, and it was horrible. And I avoided looking at myself. I just frowned every time I saw my reflection. And what I think is so powerful is that, like, physically nothing in me has changed over the last few years, but because I did the work on mastering my mindset and changing my beliefs about myself, I have the total opposite view of myself now, and I just love myself so much that it's great to be me. So if you have been struggling with insecurities or how you see yourself, this could be how you physically see yourself or how you like mentally see yourself even. Like Maybe you physically have insecurities about your appearance and how you look in the world. Maybe you just have insecurities around like what you bring to the table. Like maybe at your job you feel insecure because you're always telling this old story about how you're not good enough. So that could be the self-image that you're projecting forward and showing up as every day, which means you're showing up with this image of yourself, these limiting beliefs, these doubts, these insecurities, and that is what other people are going to start to pick up on because your energy speaks so loudly, even if you don't realize it. So let's get into what he talks about inside the self-image psychology and shifting it. So what we want to do is take the old story, the old identity, the old image, right? We're taking this old version of who you think you are or what you constantly tell yourself, and we're going to implant the new one. It's going to sound really simple, but I'm going to actually break it down and share how to do this on a subconscious level, because you could be watching this and go like, oh, well, if it was that easy, why haven't I done it? Yes, this is why you haven't done it, because it's not actually that easy. So you have to firstly get very clear on what the old story is. So let's just go with mine, for example. The insecurities around my image and around how I saw myself and really not feeling good enough in who I was and all that kind of stuff. So that was an old story, and what you'll notice if you do any kind of mindset work or if you watch some of my other videos or anything, if you're paying attention to how the subconscious mind works, you've probably caught on to the fact that it continues to tell the same story. And there is actually a part of your brain called the RAS or the RAS that literally looks for proof and validation of what it already believes to be true. So I spend all these years growing up thinking I'm ugly, focusing on all the negative areas that I saw in myself. That became the easiest thing to prove to be true because I thought it so often. It's like that computer programming. It just was in there, right? So it's very easy for my RAS to just be like, you're ugly and you're this and you're that, and tell all these same stories over and over again and reinforce them so many times that that just was my self-image. Now, to just simply start to tell myself a new story and be like, Kara, you're pretty, and like use a positive affirmation or something, it doesn't actually do the work, because we have to really deeply release this old story. We have to deeply release the old story and like pull that old programming out to remove it first, and then implant in something new and positive. Now, I talk about this on my free mindset training, which is linked down below. And I also talk about my 3-step system to do this, which is crazy powerful, because the whole first step and the whole first month of my 90-day program is focused on that deep releasing and really, really uncovering all the things that are in your old identity, keeping you telling those same stories that become so easy, that make you think they're real and they're true and they're just your reality forever. We do the deep releasing work to uncover and pull that out, so that then we can start to build on a new solid foundation versus continuing to have that instilled in the back of your mind. So when I started to implant the new one, I was using a whole bunch of different mindset techniques and subconscious reprogramming techniques and deep meditations and hypnosis and NLP and like all these different things to help me. I hope you can't hear that it's raining, but we'll see. Okay, so I was using all these different things to do the deep releasing work. And so then as I started to shift in and create this new identity, I could focus in on the new story. Now that's what I want to really focus on for the next couple minutes, before I finish this video, because there's so many components of this that it's going to be difficult, and I don't want to make it 30 minutes or 40 minutes long, because if you haven't noticed yet, I really love to talk. I just love to talk to myself, honestly. It's the best thing in the world. I am that person who just like talks to herself all the time. So, but I'm glad you're here watching, so thank you. It makes me feel a little bit less weird about it. So what I want to focus on with the new identity and the new story is using your old story and reframing it. This is talked about a lot in many different mindset and subconscious. Please say that it fits on the screen. It's good. Different reprogramming tools. So let's say my old story, my old story, I'm going to pick a different example that's a lot easier to focus on, or a lot easier to like, it's at the top of my mind. My old story and my old self-image of myself was someone who was really bad with money. I could think about a lot of examples in my childhood where I just love to spend, I love to go shop, I love to treat myself and put things towards myself, basically. So my parents would say things like, you know, I always got compared to my brother who was like really good at saving, and I was actually quite good at saving, but I had that like spending tendency because I'm a Taurus, and I'm gonna blame it on that. But that's probably why. So my self-image was that I'm very bad with money, and it continued to be this story I continued to tell myself. And then I had different things with my business over the last few years where I almost was self-sabotaging myself because of these limiting beliefs and this identity I thought I had. And so it's almost like that self-fulfilling prophecy, because I believe I'm not good with money. So on a subconscious level, I start making decisions that are really not the best decisions, but they're coming from this identity, from this old story. Now, this stuff shows up in all the different areas of your life, which is why it's so important to do this work, because you don't even realize it usually until it's happened a bunch of times. And then usually it creates these patterns, and you start to become aware of the pattern. You get sick of it, frustrated, annoyed, and you question it, and that's when you start to figure out this root cause. So instead of me constantly playing the story of these times I spent money, or the times in my business where like I didn't make the smartest decisions, or the time when I maxed out all my cards and was struggling to pay rent and living off canned foods, like I could focus on that story and identify with it very strongly and latch onto it very strongly. That's totally possible, and in fact it's the easiest thing for me to do, because my RAS and my subconscious mind has already told this story for a long time. So to focus on the things that reinforce that story are incredibly easy, remember? So it's just easy for me to focus on that and continue to replay it and tell myself this thing. Now, what we do, and one of the things that Dr. Maltz talks about, is taking those stories and looking at them from a different perspective or a different outcome, so that you can reframe it in a way that actually supports the new identity and the new self that you want to create. So instead of beating myself up and looking at like, oh, you're a failure, or you're bad with money, or you're this, or you're that, or you're not responsible, like there's a million negative things I could tell myself, and for a while I did, and for like years growing up I had, because I was always focusing on those negative stories. But by doing this work and reframing it, I could actually look at, wait a minute, look at all the times that you were amazing with money. Look at all of the times where you saved really well, where you were able to go travel for years at a time because you had saved and worked so much, you know, like look at all of these different things that were proof of the opposite. So it's separating your limited belief from like what is also true. The limiting belief is just one side of the story, and you can choose to focus on the other side. So I also started to look at, hey, you know what? Even the times when I spent or overspent or made bad investments, or the investments didn't work out the way I wanted them to, instead of beating myself up and now attaching a negative emotion and story that fuels that negative identity, I'm gonna focus and spin, and it's like finding the silver lining. I'm gonna find the good in that. Like, you know what? I made that decision because I was so dedicated and determined to this, or I was so passionate about that, or like I really, really wanted this to happen, or like I could find a new positive thing to focus on. And I could also look at all of the times where it did work out, right? Like, yeah, I was able to do this, I was able to do that, I saved really well here, I made this really great decision in this place, right? All of these different positive stories that had just like drifted out of my mind for years because I was too busy replaying the negative ones. Think about, we did this with a client of mine the other day because she had this belief that it wasn't safe to make decisions, or that like her opinion and input didn't matter in these decisions. So we broke down, okay, where does this stem from? And she had a few different examples when she was younger, when she had asked for things or tried to share her input or made these decisions, and people responded really negatively, and they were triggered because of their own things and kind of took it out on her and projected it, right? And in her mind, she associated this with the fact that it's not safe for her to make decisions, or she's not smart enough to make the decisions, or her input doesn't matter. So can you see how, when you understand that part, where it's coming from, she's replaying these few examples of times when it didn't work and continuing to then believe this really limited negative view of seeing things. But I asked her, you know, like, okay, so I get that, but what, like, let's think of some times when you made a decision and it actually worked out. That's the opposite, right? Let's find something where it worked for you and where people actually really valued your opinion, or were excited that you shared because it helped them, or you made this big decision and it really worked for you. And by doing this, she was able to create a new attachment to all of these times that she had forgotten about or dismissed or tucked away, that she actually had a voice, and like she actually made the right decision that ended up working out in beautiful ways for her. So by shifting that old identity and implanting the new one, she started to go, okay, like now when I'm feeling small, or that old story's coming up, or that voice, or whatever it is, I can create this trigger and I can start to go, wait a minute, hey, remember all these times when you actually did it really well? And like, remember all these times when things worked out perfectly for you because you made this decision? And remember all those times you trusted yourself and it actually worked out really well? Or you spoke up and it really worked out, right? She started to create this new identity that she could focus on and realize that she always was that person. Now, on a very last really quick note, you can start to use that image and project it into the future to help you manifest. So if you start to tell this story of all these times when you did succeed, or all this positive story for this identity, you start to tell that to yourself over and over and over again, and you start to reaffirm these new beliefs. It does take some time, depending on if you're just doing it by itself or if you have the other tools in place that will help you with it. But you continue to create this new story and tell yourself of that success story. You're telling yourself of your empowerment instead of your struggle and limitation. And this is what's going to then fast track your manifestation, because you're focused on the good, which automatically raises your vibration, makes you feel good. It automatically keeps your brain focused on the positive, which is going to then allow you to show up at like a cognitive level of thinking differently, seeing differently, speaking differently, acting differently, all of these things that add up. And when you're in that alignment, when you're in that place, then you start to attract things that match the energy of that person. So when you're living in the old story, you're attracting things that match the energy of the limitation. That's why you see more of the negative things show up. You see more proof and validation of it showing up. Partly because it's law of attraction and you're attracting it, partly because your Raz is literally just focused on that, so it only notices and really perceives those things a lot more than the other things. So there's the mindset, there's the energy. They both work together. Now, before I finish this, because it's raining, and it's starting to rain a lot more, is that there is a sweet spot of combining the energy work, combining the deep releasing tools, and combining the mindset and the subconscious reprogramming in order to do this a lot faster. Instead of spending years doing it like I did, you can find a mentor, find a program, find the right tools in place that will help you get on the fast track. And that is exactly why I created my Conquer Your Mind program, so that people get on that 90-day fast track to help them really shift out and release the old self, the old stories, the old beliefs, and the old energy, so that they can now move forward, create a new foundation, and align with their higher self, which is when the manifestation happens, when things start being attracted to you on a high vibrational level instead of the low vibrational level, and you start to see your whole world and your image of yourself change. So if you want to know more, make sure you check out the free mindset training down below. It's going to explain all about it. It's going to share my 3-step process. It's also going to share with you 3 areas where you might be getting stuck right now trying to do this work. And I only have a couple spots available at this time of filming. Who knows, depending on when you watch this, if you watch this later on, I only have a few spots left to work with me in this program to get results like this, where you're starting to really change your identity, change your image of yourself, break free from the struggles and the limitations, and show up in the world with confidence, show up authentically in your true self, and align and manifest and create. So make sure you click that link down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, please hit the subscribe and turn on the notifications. Every single thumbs up just helps to support the channel and help me share this with more people and reach more people with this kind of stuff. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check out some of these other videos here. And if you want to know more about mindset, I also have a ton of subconscious mind reprogramming in this playlist here. And feel free to dive in and check those out for some extra help. Thank you again. I will see you on the next video.